You produce the Beta helmet from your pack, take it closer to the slowly spinning streams of the Mahlstrom, and order the Mahlstrom to pass control. Despite the unclear phrasing, the Mahlstrom fulfills the order precisely. A little greenish lightning flashes and burns bright inside the glass bulb of the helmet. Packing the helmet, you realize that you no longer direct the Mahlstrom. The control is lost, and the space around you is stretching and swirling, curling into an endless, quivering, white nothingness. You freeze inside of it, like in a zero-gravity state, squinting against the light pouring from all directions. Yoko looks at you with glowing blue eyes.
Research mode. Senpai, your mission is complete. Explain to me what is customary to do in such cases. Will you go for recycling? To a long-term storage warehouse? Will you get a new task? I am ready to analyze your answer.
The robo-girl nods.
The answer is accepted. Do you want me to accompany you on your new mission?
Yoko's eyes change color.
Social mode. I received an answer to my question. Ready to answer yours, Senpai.
The robo-girl freezes for a couple of seconds, apparently analyzing the data array.
From our travels, Senpai, I've come up with a pretty accurate picture of the world. We are in an irrational, inhospitable place governed by a cult of violence, conventional authority, and caste-based dictatorship. Further studying of society seems pointless to me. I plan to return to Magellan, to Akira, and carry out research tasks under his command.
She tilts her head and squints. The girl nods shortly.
Offer accepted, Senpai. I will prioritize your tasks. Let's begin our scientific mission, Senpai.
Hanging her head, Fox is listening to her own feelings. The woman looks up at you in a completely non-aggressive, almost pleading manner.
The Mahlstrom sounds different when it's inside your head. A lot different.
She shrugs.
Same as always.
Fox snorts.
Let's go. I'm coming with you. And your metals.
Nakamura is pacing back and forth in her tent, but stops anxiously when you come in.
Did you bring the helmet?
The Silver takes the device out of the case with extreme caution, her hands trembling a bit. She turns to you.
You fulfilled your part of our treaty and did a huge favor to the citizen of the new committee and of the entire dome. Have no doubt, all our agreements will also be fulfilled. Thank you for your cooperation.
Nakamura stands by the campfire holding the helmet, thoughtful. She seems to be in a torpor and doesn't react to you at all. Melville's standing by a huge backpack, looking at you with disappointment.
It's cool to decide for others, huh? I hope you're satisfied with what you've done.
Another milestone in the history of mankind has come to an end. Mahlstrom, that you have awakened in the excavation zone at C-12 Nashville facility, has remained completely unexplored, much like the civilization of the forefathers that created it. Of course, Mahlstrom was neither good nor evil. It probably turned out to be just a tool that humanity simply was not mature enough to wield. Perhaps it was a communication interface that tried to unite the minds of all the people under the dome. Or a security system that warned us against getting into contact with something unknown and dangerous. Or a creative force that transforms the world and awakens supernatural powers in some individuals. One thing is indisputable. Mahlstrom, lost in its own creation, gave rise to your incredible mind, and once in your hands, it gave you the opportunity to change the fate of the world completely. Few receive such a chance, and naturally, you took it and made your choice. Mahlstrom, which mankind spent so much effort to conquer, was too valuable to destroy and too dangerous to make it a public good. That's why you put control over the Megalo anomaly into the hands of a woman who can keep her cool in even the worst scenarios. Equipping the Beta helmet, Kimiko engaged in a merciless struggle with everyone who defied the committee's monopoly on power. The fight lasted several months and ended in her enemy's decisive defeat. Magellan, which even under the new committee had been showing the first signs of self-government, finally lost its autonomy. The post of base director was abolished, and the station flooded with citizens. Years later, Magellan merged with the city to form a huge metropolis. Carmine Heights, which had never claimed leadership under the dome, finally lost its position. With Maelstrom's overwhelming power at her disposal, Kimiko forced the community into indentured servitude based on dishonest and unbalanced trade deals. Bloodied and weakened, Carmine Heights would eventually become a protectorate of the new committee. As far as the church was concerned, Kimiko used all of her growing influence to crush the brainchild of the abbot in Santiago. After she officially banned the church in 1982, the temple building was confiscated. Some believers went deep underground, the rest were condemned to forced labor, confined as dangerous mental patients. The abbot died a couple of years later, and Reverend Santiago was shot and killed by an assassin in 1989. But the technology of the virtual world outlived its creators, preserved in the most disgusting of forms. With Maelstrom's awesome power at her disposal, Chairman Nakamura turned the virtual world into a corporate propaganda machine, layering entire sections of the barrens and slums with deceptive digital mirages. Shielded from the effects of Maelstrom, the picnic-neutral zone thrived, eventually growing into a conglomerate of free settlements, paying allegiance to no one. In truth, Picnic posed no threat to the new committee's power. This was obvious to everyone, including Kimiko herself, who simply left the neutral zone and its inhabitants to their own devices. Despite the measures taken by Nakamura, the FOPs remained a threat to the inhabitants of the dome for many years. The Ranger Corps, made up of the best fighters of Blackwing, was established to deal with the mad rascals. It was a long and bloody struggle, but in the end, the FOPs were exterminated. In the end, everyone was resigned to the absolute domination of the new committee, except for the Phalanx. Knowing they could never prevail in a military conflict, Hieronymus Zemeckis chose to wage a war of espionage, bribing and enticing the new committee's top managers, whose minds, for some reason, were resistant to Maelstrom's powers. The constant struggle with traitors and dissidents made Kimiko paranoid and cruel. During her last years in power, Nakamura ruled from a secret bunker, surrounded by an elite guard, dozens strong. In May of 1996, despite the increased security, the Beta-Helm was stolen and destroyed by unknown persons. A few months later, in August of that year, Chairman Kimiko Nakamura was shot to death in her bed. The unrest that followed the destruction of the helmet escalated into all-out civil war. After Nakamura's death, power passed into the hands of the Military Council, which suppressed the protests at Magellan and in the city at the cost of many lives. The conflict severely weakened the new committee in numbers, resources, and political influence, and they were soon absorbed into the Phalanx. Though it became obvious much later, after many years, by that time, the desert had covered your traces. Though the tale of what you'd done is still alive, and will stay like that till the end of time.